to send back kumba kwenyu, and it's in most cases it's for life, especially if you're in Africa. You are expected to look after your people, uchingo senda mari ndio yatuti black tax yoyo. So I'm going to define it, then tozotasa shomanana zvodatarise concerning this issue. It's actually a very hot issue in the black tax. So it's a term yakatanga ku SA, though a lot of people are discussing on how they can move away from the word black. Since another term.
Okay.
But black tax is actually something that is very thorny in many people's lives. It's a thorny issue. But it's a term that refers to financial support that we send, particularly to Tarama couples, that couples send to their families of origin, my secondary families. Remember, when we're talking of families, we have two types. We have the secondary and the primary family. The primary family being the immediate family, nevana. And then you also have the secondary family, where you come from, your families of origin. And these families have expectations that they have. For some, they have these expectations. Monthly, you must send something back home. Black taxi. So it's actually a very big issue kuma couples akawanda, because they fight over how much to send and how often should we send money back home. Kuma parents edu, to what extent should we look after them? And bearing in mind with the same couple that we're talking about, or the same primary family that we're talking about, my ambitions are they want to travel, they want to go out, they want to have date nights, and then on the other hand, they support the family where they come from, because it's expected of them. Those are the expectations my families come over. So just balancing those two extremes. You've got your own life to lead as a family, as a new family, particularly as a new family, as a primary family, and then on the other hand, our extended family, our parents included as well, trying to balance those two sides. Because I'm just focusing on my family, and then we neglect our parents, we neglect our extended families, our siblings. I'm particularly worried about how couples actually neglect their parents. Remember, the blessing your marriage in over two sources. There's God who will bless your marriage, and then there's also what we call parental blessing. So if we don't, or rather if we neglect that role yokuva supporter, that role yokuva ritira, then we miss out on this crucial blessing that God has for us that comes through my parents. So we have to strike that good balance.
Okay.
We still need to send black text. And if I'm going to answer in short, should we send black text to our parents? I will say yes, we still have to send black text if they need us to support them. But at the same time, we must take a balanced approach as well, because life must also happen for us as a couple, for us as a primary family. Things must also happen. Kwetu kuti yese yauya, irungoenda ichingonzi de black text yangoenda kumba kwatakabva. Hakuna kwatunosvika se family.
Usikatofana kubvumirana kuti fraction irikuenda ndeipi and how often?
Exactly,
okay.
Exactly. Bearing in mind weekend kuti generation edu ine rimwe zita yarakapua, hanzi inonzi sandwich generation. Kureva kuti tiri nyama yari pakati pe two pieces of bread. Kune chimwe chingwa, and then pakati pane nyama. So we then become the sandwich generation. Meaning kuti tine vana, vada ma school fees, vada kupfekedzwa, vada kupuwa chikafu, and then kune rimwe side my parents, foot, extended family and all that. So we are caught between a hard place and a rock. You still have to provide for both sides. So exactly. So there's a lot of pressure on my couples, especially the modern couples. A lot of pressure, and this pressure, yakawia say, when we compare with other races. We are actually emerging, coming out of colonial rule and all that. So races my parents do that is kutvasava emancipated to that extent. They can actually look after themselves when retirement comes. So isusu vana vacho manje takudzokera back kuita look after our parents, because they could not prepare fully because of what was happening kudara ikoko. In other countries, kwakatangira nyaya black taxes, kunana SA, they also talk of apartheid. is something that also hindered their parents from being economically emancipated. Saka izvozvo zvinoita kuti maparents edu vaite look forward to the time yokuti leo akushanda, weekend akushanda, ndakusvika pachikamu chokumbozorawo ndichiriritirwa nevana vangu. So they've got that expectation.
I think for most parents, especially in the African context, pavanokuendesa kuchikoro, most of them, I think pamwe zvinenge zvichatozosiyana pageneration yedu, most of them vaisacrifice vachiti ndachiyambudza kuti mangwana chizondiita sei, chizondibatsira.
Exactly. Like vanotaura vachitanzi chirere chigokurera.
Chigokurerawo.
So already we've got an expectation from our parents. Kuti, ndakatamburira mwanawe. And again, coming from a developing country, this must actually make sense. Kuti, ukaendesa mwana kuchikoro in a developing country, you know the pain yokuendesa mwana kuchikoro. Ma school fees, school run handi nyore.
Sandinone.
So no matter how backed up you are as a parent, you also look forward to the day yokuti mwana wako achakuita thank you or achakuzokuita look after. You never know what life inoita sei. Pamundogona kufuma ndisina pension yacho kana kuti zvisina kundinakira. I'm expecting kuti mwana wangu achanditawo zvakanaka. These are expectations that we can't just throw away.
Because sometimes people try to sweep them under the carpet kuti zvinozonyanya, but then I guess vanenge vakasacrifice time iyoyo. You said it's a developing way in developing countries, and inenge itori sacrifice yekuwana school fees yachona yekuriritira chikafu on the table. Like, it's a lot.
In developed countries, weekend they've got social grants for vakura nechi. They are developed countries. It's just we are not yet there. So it's important for us as children to then step in. Manje pakazoita couple isinganzwisisi izvozvo, kana pakaita one asinganzwisisi, anotaura tingatumira mari kuvabereki, isu tine maprojects edu atira kuita, then we have a challenge.
I think zvirotoitika mudzimba izvozvo kuti panowanikwa vanhu vasiri kubvumirana, umwe achiti kana.
Exactly. And inenge yakutozonzi elder abuse. It's actually a form of abusing your elders if you are not sending support back home. And ukapesa usingachadiwe nevabereki vake weekend, chances are that unogona kutozorambana nemunhu wako simply because you are not being accepted nekwaanobva, because you wasvika ukamisa zvinhu. Iye aisupporta anditi before you came in, and when you then came in wabva wazvivharisa, wabva wazvimisa. So we have to tread carefully vasikana, we have to tread carefully vakomana, kuti tikwanise kucontinue all that support yanga yagara iripo if we are going to live in harmony in our marriages. Because ukangokanganisa ipapo, parental blessing is so key. Vanhu nga vasingabati vabereki, but vakangogunun'una so ngonyunyuta zvinotitira vana vashawa vachazive kuti tiripo. Kugunun'una kwacho ikoko hausi mushonga wavabata, but for me I think it's a prayer, and that's why kuchizoona zvinhu zvako usingafambe zvakanaka. That's why it's important for us, particularly varora. You can't just say mai vako vanoroya or mai vako vanoita sei handidi kuti vana vangu vaende ikoko and all those things.
Vodini
vatanga kuroya nhasi ko pavairambisa murume wako achirwara negwirikwiti, unoriziva here weekend achariziva. So
vakatadza kumuuraya. Saka because it's real way.
It's real. They worked hard, raising munhu wako. So we still need to take care of them. Given the history yavo yokuti kwavari kubva, they never got an opportunity to build generational wealth. Saka izvozvo tofange tinazvo mupfungwa dzedu. And the other big question weekend is, okay, to whom is this black tax due? Remember, as a couple, you've got people that you are responsible over, and you must give them that black tax. To whom is that black tax due? Ukangorora chet kana kurorwa wane in-law family, and those people are also expecting something from you. Muchishona chedu zvonzi mukwasha muonde. It's just muonde, the fruit is always coming in season and out of season. You always have fruit. Saka, it's very important for us to also be aware kuti kune expectation iko kwatakarora neko kwatakarorwa. And inini, my belief is that we must definitely play our role in terms of meeting that expectation. Then secondly, there's also your family cover, your family of origin, they spent a lot on you, vakaita zvakawanda, and of course by right they also have an expectation yavanayo yokuti vachawana something from you, chirere chigokurerawo, like we're saying. So for most parents variko today, their motivation vachiendesa vana kuchikoro yanga ingori iyo yokuti mangwana anozondirera. So really very very important izvozvo. But at the same time, weekend, what is very important is that we need to balance the two now. On the other hand, scripture says that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. But isusu tiri kuona the opposite happening kuti inini kana nchinge ndaretire ndakura ndakuespecta kuti vana vangu vandiite zvakadai nezvakadai. But yet scripture says that I must leave an inheritance not just for my children but also for your
children's children.
Yes. So izvozvo zviri very, very critical as well. We need to make sure that we do something about that because scripture requires us to actually invest into the future. But the challenge that we have ndeyekuti hatina zvatakasiyirwawo given the history yana baba vedu, saka takudzokera mumasure kunogadzisa zvisina kuitwa nana baba vedu zvakafanana nekuroora chaiko vana baba vana kupedza kuroora. Saka waunogadzira unoroora mai vako upedzisa zvese izvozvo wochizoconcentrata now on building the next generation vana vako and all those things. But we learn from the Bible. If you look into the book of Genesis chapter 45 going into 47, there you see the story of Joseph. Joseph akanga aita breakthrough ari Egypt, and he had to look after his family. There was famine, papasina chikafu and all that, and in the second year of that famine, remember it was 7 years, then vakoma va Joseph ndobva vauya, and Joseph had no option but to help them, to help his family of origin. Saka biblically, we are expected to pay black tax. We are expected to do something towards
I love
our families.
You reference the Bible there.
Yeah.
Okay.
If Joseph did it, we must also do it. So it's all there in the Bible. So it's about balancing these two extremes. The other extreme, remember, is saying that we must leave an inheritance for our children's children. So therefore, my parents aren't going to expect anything from me. In fact, ndinto for to expect something from them. But here again, we are also learning from Joseph. Could Joseph also looked after his parents, looked after his brothers? Because just remember that you are carrying the hopes of an entire village, an entire family. And that thinking must also be pakapo yega yega. Kuti mune responsibility. And it's important for us to look at what must we do as a couple in order for us to make sure that tatumira black tax yedu, and at the same time we are also growing financially, because every couple has a dream to grow financially. We have dreams to build generational wealth and all that, but we still have responsibilities kumbakwa trukuva in our families of origin.
Wow. I would want to hear from you as well. We are live on Facebook. You can also hit us up on our WhatsApp platform and tell us your thoughts on black tax. We're talking black tax today. And the morning weekend in Pastor Simba, in my husband, I told you his mom was working, but I'm the second born and my parents vari kumusha. Pananga ndisati ndawe kushanda hapana chaitumurwa kwedu asi tichienda kwa mother love taitenga. So pandakangotanga kushanda ndinotoisa mari paside every month, otherwise my parents vanotofa nenzara ivo vamwene vangu ndinovatengera because she receives rental income. Thanks Pastor Simba, dai ateerera staife munhu wangu iyeye. And Anzi, I got another message saying black tax apana kwaunoenda unenge uchingofamba pa one place uri kuwacha mablankets ndini kuno Bulawayo. And Anzi, on black tax, I think one must support parents only to have some money out of the country, supporting siblings. Now I'm back in Zimbabwe and not so well money-wise. Those siblings have forgotten about me. Black tax I spent on them, so munemu ngazionere except parents. Saga itori nyaya.
And you can see kuti vavanotozoita bitterness, because vanenge vane my expectations ndakabatsira umwe, but inini zvangu zvakusafaya, no one is coming to my aid. So definitely pantori nenyaya. But what is important is that we need to understand my obligations at now from kumba kwatinobva and all that. They have expectations. Like amai vanga vachitaura vari kumusha vakaita nyaya yekutamburira inozava vachireza mari ma-school fees, and then munhu akusenza aroorwa havana kana kumbodya kana send ikozvo zvavatombotumirwa kana anything. We need to understand my obligations akadaro kuti kwangu kune ma-obligations akadai mai vangu vaitengesa kuti ndikwanise kuenda kuchikoro and all those things, and we need to understand all that. Bose pamwe pacho topedza takuisa mari kune vanhu vazitomborina need yemari iyoyo, and then we neglect kune need chaichayo. So I want to take you through what we must then do now in order for us to actually balance the two extremes. Things like that.
Just a quick one. Got another message saying my father-in-law no one rent in Oshuka 250 US dollars vanogara vega nevazukuru too, but still he wants money for groceries. Is that fair ipapo? Amwene vangu vaitoti ndoda mari yerent when we were still at their house. Sadly she passed away, but hey, it was tough. Zvakandipa shungu dzekuvaka. Also my hubby haende so kwedu, but kwavo every month we have to. So yeah.
Yeah, this is an issue. Okay, so what must we do? Number one, let's know that it's our responsibility to look after our parents. Kana vasingakwanise kuzvitengera zvinhu, it's our responsibility. We now need to pray so that we grow financially, so that we'll be able to meet that expectation. Saka izvozvo weekend I can't sit here and say no, don't send mari kuvabereki. Let's look after them. Let's try as much as we can. Panozoita challenge for me ndepekuti mari yacho inogona kunge ichinzi iri kunetsa iko zvinezvi, but iringokwanira mhuri yako chete yokuti uwane inozoenda kuvabereki uri kuishaya, ipapo panozondinetsa kureconcile. So it's very important for us to work extra hard so that we can look after our family, our families of origin if they need that helping hand. Saka izvozvo zvofa kuitwa. Then number two, let's know our limits. Remember, we want to balance the two extremes. Let's know our limits and let's stick to them. Kana chikwanisa kutumira 100 ndo zvatiri kukwanisa ipapo. We don't want to break the bank kana kunoroba so that we can give them whatever they are asking for. Zvese zvakuti tinoda. We must know our limits. Kuti apa ndo patinogumira, ndo zvatinogona. Izvo zviri very important. And you must know how to communicate those limits. Ukangoenda ukangoti mukadzi wangu ati tinofa kukupa $100 chete pamwedzi, azvibude zvakanaka. The language is my wife and I agreed. My husband and I agreed. That's the language. Zvikazongobva kumunhu wani chete, iye ndiye anozonzi ndiavharisa zvinhu zvese. So it's important for you to know your limits and also to stick to those limits and also to communicate those boundaries or those limits to your people so that you manage my expectations avo. But mukavapa a picture yokuti matova mbinga, you've made it in life, then they will also expect more. So it's very important for you to know your limits and also to know how to communicate with them. Kuti ndo patiri apa, pari zvinatina zvatinazvo, asi tikawana something tinowedzera. Then number 3, money is not your only resource. I think this is the most powerful point of all the points. Money is not your only resource. Pamwe pacho teichingonzi tipei mari, but what these people may need zvinogona kuvabatsira, it's actually a fishing rod, not the fish. I know it's so frustrating, especially vari diaspora. I've spoken to a number of people who are diaspora. They are so disappointed. They are always sending this black tax home, but vanosvika pachikamu chekuzora weekend kuti veduwe zvanyanya, every month tungotumira mari ingonzi yapera. You may need to look at other resources like pfungwa cheche dzoma ideas. Let's sit down, let's discuss kuti what fishing rod would you want. Totanga tokuvakira matanga ehuku here, toisa huku dzinoita mari and all those things. Izvi zvinogona kutibatsira, when we create a fishing rod, as it were, zvinotibatsira rather just giving them money every time. Saka let's look at ideas. Instead of sending money chete, let's look at other opportunities. Kuti chimwe chingaitwa yava season yekurima. Do you have enough inputs? Tractor iripo here. Let's hire a tractor so that we can make sure kuti mawanawo chikafu. Izvi zvinogona kutibatsira. Let's look at it from that angle as well. Let's promote a culture of working. Une munhu wari kutumira ane 21 years, ungomutumira mari every month. You are discouraging them from working.
Yeah.
So it's important for them to work.
Gore mesiseki ndakurwadza nekutumira mubereki wangu nokuti munin'ina wangu akabva agarawo kumusha and ndiye ari kutotonga nokudza vabereki kuti hamusi kuchengetwa apa iye hapana chake chaanotenga. So like you say, the issue yekuti pamwe pane ma-siblings as well, wakutomu-enabler.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's important to, talking about hasha, talking about my emotions, kana tine ma-siblings akadaro. But at the end of the day, kuti batsirike in the long run, let's sit down with that sibling to try kumubatsira, as in giving that sibling a fishing rod. Zvinogona ngechirwadza ma-first days aya because of siblings rivalry and all that. But it's important for us to sit down and work out a solution together with that siblings, because we've got siblings like that vekuti havasati vasvika pokuti vanokwanisa kuwana cheuviri. So we need to also help them. We still need to support them. Then number 4, we must have tough conversations. It's very important. pane maissues akadai sekuti anti swept under the carpet, hatitauri nezvazvo, tongoisa mari dzedu paside, tongotumira paside, but we must be willing to actually sit down face to face as a couple and address these issues. Let's have tough conversations. Chero muchidanana zvakaita se, if you avoid tough conversations akadai so, you will find that your relationship will soon actually crack. So it's very important for us to confront these big issues, these big questions, and black taxi must be done properly, openly. Mari ngaitumirwe openly, not takawanda and all that.
Panambo complain sure kuti inini anzi what must I do murume wangu anotumira ega kuside. So yeah,
that's what we teach couples weekend, kuti kana chitumira mari, kana iri kuenda kumba kwevabereki vangu inini, I would rather Pastor Glory my wife kuti azviite iye, and kana kaita iye ndiachaona mapoints anditi, and akutodevelop a relationship nevekwangu. Inini ndofa kutumirawo vekwake. That's how it should be. But ukaona murume akutumira vekwake vega, panotone problem. Pampacho problem inogona ngetori iwo pamwe ndiwo uri kuvharisa zvinhu zvakawanda. Akazongona kuti ndikatidza kutumira hama dzangu ka dzinofa nenzara. So you also have to do an introspect as well. Kuti iwo wacho, are you also sending? And sometimes to break that that thing ichocho chinetsa chekuti murume ari kutumira munhu, ari kutumira hama dzake ega. Just try iwo kumbotumira hama dzake, uone kuti murume wako achaita sei. Unganidza tumari twako, grocery twako, wotumira wega, tomboona kuti murume wako acharamba achiita izvozvo here. Because pampacho ari kutsvaga an attitude. Maybe you don't have that attitude, or you are not showing that attitude. Yokuti unodawo hama dzake, you appreciate his family of origin. So show him your attitude, and I'm sure things will change. So this must be done openly. Remember, I always say, weekend, kuti relationships, marriage particularly, is premised on the principle of openness. Then lastly, number 4, you must actually look after yourself. Remember, we are saying, let's take a balanced approach. In as much as we are sending black tax back home, we must also look after ourselves. Kweto kuti, you are now sacrificing your mental, physical, and financial health on the altar of family responsibility. Kuti achaenda out, achadya, achata zvakati, because tinana baba vari kutumira mari. Life must happen. In life, when life happens, don't apologize. Kuti sorry, takaenda unogocha. But nemo zvakare musazotumirawo ma-Instagram pictures nepa-WhatsApp status mucharatidza utsi hwenyama nechivo vasina. You have to be very sensitive as well, handiti? So, but look after yourself. Life must happen.
Oh, thank you so much, Pastor Simba. I think we should continue this conversation, Morning Galaxy people. Your contact details.
0773 000 000. At me your name.